The Interoperability Challenge. Because Minerva is a public company, I need to start with a traditional disclaimer. We're not asking you to buy our shares or telling you where to explore. So before we start as well, I'd like to define interoperability as the ability of different information systems, including humans, to access, exchange, integrate, and cooperatively use data in a coordinated manner. So a quick summary of my presentation. I'm going to try and get through it in 18 minutes because I have a 2-minute video to show at the end, just representing the state of the art of standards and communication in the European Union at the moment. We'll start off with some remarks on innovation, Instrument 43101 and explainable AI. We'll talk about some kinds of innovation, the types of interoperability that we have to be concerned with, and then Minerva's approach to interoperability in the mining industry, and then we'll finish with a video from the European Union. So for some of those in the audience will remember in the late 90s there was an incident that goes by the name of BRIEX or Busang, where investors pulled the wool over the eyes of, geologists pulled the wool over the eyes of many investors and perpetrated a great fraud between Canada and Indonesia around a mineral deposit called Busang. The outcome of that in the early 2000s was, in fact, the 43101 report. As an instrument of the Parliament of Canada, it was a standard technical report to be legislated, to be written by qualified people, required of public mining and exploration companies in Canada, with a communication objective so that analysts and investors can better understand the implications of these reports. Reliance is placed on professional associations to set discipline-specific standards. So here are a couple of slides from a presentation I made to the PDAC in 2001, too long ago, 18 years ago, on what I thought would be the effect of this legislation. I thought it would be significant benefits for the geological sciences in general, and referred to the fact that the securities administrators believed that the incremental cost of compliance with this standard would be outweighed by the very significant benefits provided to investors, namely more reliable and, in their words, with the use of standard terminology, more understandable and comparable public information. The problem is, especially for us technical people, that standards are very difficult and slow to implement. They're even more difficult to fund, and they are a moving target because as uses become broader, standards need to standardize the words, the grammars we use, and the ontologies. And I'm not going to talk about even what an ontology is today. It's a structure for knowledge. Now, with respect to standardizing the words we use, these standards exist internationally now, and the two big ones that we can use are called GeoSciML, put out by International Union of Geologists, and the European Union's Inspire standards, all available on the internet. Minerva uses these standards for all its AI work, whether it be knowledge engineering or machine learning. We believe it's just a matter of time before we see this. And I'd ask you to look at the right-hand side, where we think that standard technical reports written by qualified people will state which terminology standard they adhere to so that computers can accurately understand and use these reports. So in 20 years, we've seen a shift from not just worrying about how investors understand what we're doing, and the first presentation today very much addressed that, but also how do we communicate to computers in an intelligent way so that they can use our information and reason with it and explain to us how they reach their conclusions. So now we'll turn our attention to what is innovation, and in our area, of course, generating new knowledge is innovative, and machine learning is currently enjoying the limelight in this respect. And we know that there's a difference between unsupervised machine learning and supervised machine learning. How the results of those technologies are communicated back to us, whether we're highly educated in that specialization or whether we're just legislators or investors, is a really big challenge. So in terms of generating new knowledge and machine learning, there are emerging challenges. One of them is addressed in a report just released last week by Sequent, the makers of Leapfrog, and I'll quote from them very quickly. This is their report released last week. Although there could be a push towards the use of machine learning to carry out geological modeling and resource estimation in the future, it poses some clear risks. Firstly, data isn't necessarily fit for purpose, and how will this be picked up? Secondly, there's the issue of data bias. The need for the expert who understands the data chain and decision-making processes from early data acquisition through to the interpretation remains integral. A lot of this has to do with common sense. How do you get the computer to take into account common sense? Well, there's a very good book to read about that called Rebooting AI that came out in September of this year by Gary Marcus. I'd heartily recommend a good read. It's written for the general public, it's not for technical people, and it very clearly expresses the problems that we're addressing at Minerva, which is how can you get explainable AI that delivers results but can explain how it got there. So there is another way to be innovative with AI, and that is applying existing learning. And we've got hundreds of years of existing learning in documents and books and the geologists sitting around this conference. But we're not leading the field in this area. You've just got to look at TELUS. So TELUS in healthcare right now have an app that you can get on your phone delivering quality healthcare at your fingertips. Well, there are equivalents, and Minerva has an equivalent called Target, quality expression targets at your fingertips. Just like a medical diagnosis system, we can provide reasons why certain places have been identified for expression and advice on how to improve the quality of that target. So I'd urge you to visit either of our booths. There's the Innovation Hub booth there, or booth 500, and talk to our team, and they'll explain to you how this works and how it's built on a fundamental building block. The foundation is terminology, standard terminology. So let's turn our attention now to interoperability, because this explainable AI is all about interoperability between people and computers, not just between people and people or computers and computers. So let's start first with the mining industry. I have a nice example here from the second latest economic geology publication, which was dedicated to geometallurgy. And I'll quickly quote from the introduction to the title of paper in that publication. What is new, however, in today's world is the holistic view where geologists, mining engineers, metallurgists, I should add environmental scientists, share the responsibility for profitable operation of the mine and communicate across the boundaries of what were traditional data silos. i.e. geologists, geostatisticians, mining engineers and metallurgists historically do not share a common technical language and receive no training in their degree programs on what the other groups need to know to optimize a mining operation. So we have an interoperability problem within our discipline between metallurgists, geologists, environmental scientists and mining engineers. And we in Minerva have a product that addresses that. It's called Leo, and we'll touch on it in a minute. Talk to Anna in our booth if you want to know more about it. This is not a problem unique to our industry. It's across all industries. So there are specialists in addressing this interoperability between people problem. This is a diagram from one of theirs, papers on this subject, and a useful model in that area, which we'll see coming up again in a moment, is the DIKW model, going from data to information to knowledge to wisdom. So anyway, that was about human interoperability, but we have to deal with computer interoperability as well. How do computers talk to each other? How do we integrate different databases with each other? In the British Columbia Geological Survey, they have four different databases that deal with lithologies and rock types. They have different lithology vocabularies for each of them. They are not interoperable. So who addressed this very comprehensively about 20 years ago was Tim Berners-Lee with his innovation of the semantic web. On the right-hand side is what's called the semantic stack. We don't have time to go into all the levels of that stack at the moment, but what that's about, that's the computer architecture for providing a common framework, I'm reading from the top now, that allows data to be shared and reused across application, enterprise and community boundaries. The term coined by Berners-Lee for a web of data that can be processed by machines, that is one in which much of the meaning is machine readable. Not just the letters and the numbers, but the meaning. So the semantic stack illustrates the architecture of the semantic web. Minerva uses all the levels of the semantic web stack with some qualifications with respect to how much cryptography we do and how we deal with trust. Those are subjects on their own. So moving then from computer interoperability, which has pretty well been sorted out, we have to go to human-computer interoperability. And if you look at the Berners-Lee stack on the right, you'll see that right in the middle of it, core, absolutely fundamental to it, is what taxonomies do we use? What are the words we use to describe rocks and tectonic settings and geological time, and the units we use, is it ppm or percentage? All of those things have to be explicitly explained to a computer if it's going to be able to explain back to you how it reached its result. So I just give a nice example there of, in my career, I've had to deal with at least five different taxonomies of rocks. They're all listed there. There are many more taxonomies that we use in dealing with mineral deposits. So let's have a quick overview then of how does Minerva take this into the technologies that it develops. And in fact, I'll quickly run over 6 different aspects of the work we do. The 4 across the middle here, Solace, Target, Driver, and Leo, are each independent commercial products. ACE, the Aristotelian Class Explorer, is a free-to-use product for developing taxonomies that are logically consistent, that assist human beings to reason with each other, and also computers to reason intelligently. And then the MDC, the Mineral Deposit Classification System, is something that we built using this technology to make a fit-for-purpose mineral deposit classification system. So I'm going to run through these because I really want to have my 2-minute video at the end. So all of these can be demonstrated at either of our booths. So ACE stands for the Aristotelian Class Editor. It's an application necessary for managing taxonomies required by humans and AI systems that wish to explain themselves. Free to use. There's the URL. It's fairly well documented as well. Our second product is called Leo. Oh, I beg your pardon, I didn't move on to the slide. So there's the slide explaining ACE and with the URL. You can get that from our booth. The second product is Leo, Language Extender and Organizer. So this is a product that really is addressing interoperability of documentation and terms between exploration, mining, metallurgy, and environmental remediation. It's really a document management system which under the hood is actually making use of all these sensibly organized, logically consistent taxonomies. We don't have time to go into it now. I urge you to find out about it at our booth or on the website. The third product is our Mineral Deposit Classification System. Minerva, in collaboration with Dr. David Lefebvre, who's sitting in front of me, has developed a new classification of mineral deposits based on the Aristotelian definition of a class. This classification is particularly useful for AI applications in mineral exploration and has been submitted as a white paper for presentation at the SEG conference in Whistler later this year. We haven't heard whether it's been accepted yet. So in fact, the Mineral Deposit Classification System uses ACE and is increasingly using Leo to organize the documents and easily access documents that are using a terminology that's consistent with the coherent classification of mineral deposits. So we all know that mineral deposits are grayscale, they can merge into each other, and I just want to say that this particular classification system sits somewhere between the USGS system that was developed many years ago by Cox and Singer, attempting to be hierarchical, as we see there at the top, but on close analysis is not hierarchical and not a true Aristotelian class. So our MDC is sitting somewhere between that and the very detailed classification system of deposits being done with machine learning now. And on the right-hand side is a schematic map of the Highland Valley porphyry showing the preliminary interpretation of footprint components around it using machine learning. This diagram is taken from a presentation at Exploration 17 2 years ago in Toronto. So our system sits between that and the classic USGS system. And what I want to point out is that the paper describing the classification of being developed with machine learning, as discussed 2 years ago in this paper, just on one diagram raises 29 different concepts that really need to be explained for computers: till, copper, fault, etc. The paper is written by 23 authors, experts in their field, and not one mention in this paper of interoperability. How do we get this information to exchange, interoperate on a computer between different models? How do you compare that model with other models? It's currently being ignored by many researchers in this area. So the next product that we have is something called Target. It's a regional scale exploration target mapping product for provincial to country scale mapping. Its benefits are that it can use very large data sets with multiple generations of data and rapidly deploy expert knowledge to reach conclusions faster and more thoroughly than human experts can do. It provides explanations. Target is domain agnostic, so it can be applied to different problems, and as evidence of that, it has already been successfully applied to the production of landslide susceptibility maps in Europe. And there was evidence now, this is of a prize we won. First prize at a meeting in Europe last year, October last year, applying the mineral target generation software we developed to landslide susceptibility mapping in Italy. So we actually recently opened an office, established an office in Darmstadt in Germany, and we'll be expanding our operations in Europe over the next year. Almost near the end, we have a product called Driver, Drilling Interpolation and Volume Estimator. It applies spatial statistical methods to multi-element drilling to produce hundreds of 3D renditions of the full suite of analyzed elements. And the key part of this is that after identifying the spatial distributions it sees in very much a sort of vision type application, it's able to compare the identified patterns with patterns reported in the literature and described in Minerva's taxonomy sensitive knowledge base. So basically what Driver is doing is automating the provision of insights into drilling results that are too expensive to achieve by human evaluation of the data because it takes too long, but which may have profound impacts on exploration or mining decisions. And then finally, our Solace product prepares poorly structured data for AI applications by harmonizing it with standard terminologies and reformatting it for computer reasoning and explanations, as well as for better machine learning outcomes. So I think I have my 2 minutes. Do I? I'm still in time. Yeah, I have my 2 minutes, so I'll summarize in closing by saying that Minerva is a knowledge engineering company. Our knowledge engineering technology brings money-saving efficiency to the mining industry. We deliver the benefits of AI to industries dependent on reasoning with complex technical and scientific data. Our technology is built on human semantics. It combines machine intelligence. We can take the outputs of machine intelligence and reason about them. So it combines machine intelligence with human intelligence to reach conclusions faster than possible by humans alone, together with the explanations needed for trust in those results. So thank you very much for listening to me. And if we could play the 2.5-minute video. This is a video presenting just where the European Union is with standards at the moment. I should introduce it by saying that 10 years ago, all of the things that I've been talking about this morning were recognized by the legislators in Brussels, and they implemented legislation compelling all authorities in Europe, municipal, provincial, and national, over the following 10 years, so from 2011 to 2021, to move all their GIS work, geology, crime, population movement, transport, into standard nomenclature and standard geometry. So this talk's been more about the nomenclature, the terminology, not the geometries. and here's how they present themselves, and this, for us, is the future in geology as well. Thank you very much.
In countries that use geospatial data, such as groundwater, transport networks, population, land use, and air temperature.